So this is it. Daniel Craig is bowing out as James Bond for his 5th and final appearance as the character. I say this is it. We've been waiting a year and a half for this movie to come out, which I think we can all agree is long overdue. So does this latest Bond outing sign off Daniel Craig's legacy in style, or does it end it on a whimper? Stay tuned to find out. My biggest problem with the story is how it's trying too hard to type the previous movie's plots whilst trying to tell its own story. Plot elements like Bond's past with Vesper Lynd or the return of Blofeld felt unwarranted within the context of this story, as they inevitably bloat the movie's runtime to a grand 2 hours and 43 minutes. Speaking of the runtime, this might be the first Bond film that I've seen where I actually looked at the time. There are many occasions when the movie takes a detour from Bond's story in favour of random storylines. One scene that comes to mind is when Safin visits Madeline as she thinks she's evaluating a patient. Though the scene reaffirms the terror that Madeline has for Safin, it ultimately serves no purpose within the plot and almost feels like a rehash of the opening scene. Starting with Daniel Craig, he does a great job of balancing the grounded James Bond that we've come to know in his tenure with the campier elements that made 007 a staple in pop culture. What ties up Craig's arc as the character is in his relationship with Madeline Swann, played brilliantly by Léa Seydoux. The chemistry between these characters is one of the stronger aspects of the movie, as I felt their pain and trauma and how it had a knock-on effect on their relationship. Craig also sells the action element of Bond to a T, especially in the hand-to-hand combat and shootout scenes. Rami Malek turns in a solid performance as the movie's villain Safin. Safin's introduction was a terrifying window into the world of this character. After this introduction, we don't see him for a large portion of time, which undermines his presence in the movie. And when we do get around to seeing his character in the final act, it all feels too little too late to establish this villain as nothing more than mediocre. It's frustrating to see because I do like Rami Malek as an actor, but unfortunately the script gives him so little to do that you end up feeling sorry for Malek, who delivers subtlety and menace at the best of times in his performance. Lashana Lynch makes her debut as 007, aka Nomi. Though Lynch plays the role fairly well, particularly in her action scenes, her character is so obviously written with the purpose of calling out Bond's shortcomings as a character. There were times when her character felt like it was pandering to the woke culture that we live in today. Comments from Nomi, such as how the world has moved on from Bond, to how she was surprised that Bond didn't make a sexual advance on her, all felt too on the nose and made Nomi a two-dimensional character. Ana de Armas makes a short but memorable appearance as CIA agent Paloma. I think anyone who's anyone can agree that she looked smoking hot in that outfit. But beyond the superficial, I liked how Armas played Paloma as someone who's relatively inexperienced and learning her trade as an agent. It makes for some great dialogue between Paloma and Bond, as both actors share great chemistry. Armas also kicks ass in her set piece, as she proves to be a worthy equal to Bond. The rest of the cast all give good performances, though they feel like extended cameos. Moneypenny, Q and M are treated as audience members, especially in the final act, as opposed to being actual participants in the story. I think No Time to Die might be a contender for the best looking Bond movie of all time, with maybe Skyfall being a close second. A large part of that comes down to the direction from Cary Fukanaga. Some of the standout locales include when Bond and Madeline are in Italy. Fukanaga really makes the most of these exotic locations, capturing the glamour and sophistication that makes the Bond movies so special. For the first 45 minutes, I was completely invested in the story and characters, and a lot of that comes down to the way Fukanaga paces the movie. Fukanaga gives the audience enough time to understand the conflict between Bond and Madeline, which leads to a brisk pace during the first act. But once the movie brings Blofeld back into the mix, it results in one too many storylines. The return of the character felt painfully obvious as a way to type the previous movie's plot threads. And to that extent, whether this was a choice on the producer's part or Fukunaga's, either way it hurts the immediate story being told and leads to a lack of focus in the direction of the movie. Though Fukunaga doesn't have a rich history as an action filmmaker, that definitely doesn't come across on screen. Fukunaga uses many wide shots and one takes, which was refreshing to see when compared with how modern blockbusters ineffectively shoot action. The standout set piece is the car chase scene in Italy. Fukunaga in this scene is able to convey the tension that Bond and Madeline are experiencing, as well as allowing Bond to play with more gadgets than previous installments have allowed. Much will be talked about with regards to the finale of the movie. I think it'll be a Marmite situation of either loving or hating the ending. Personally, I thought it was the only logical way to end Daniel Craig's arc as Bond, Although strangely, correct me if I'm wrong, but this may be the first time we've seen Bond being killed on screen. Fukanaga and the writers do a good job of allowing the emotions of Bond's final moments to play out gradually, rather than rushing to the impending doom. The final conversation between Bond and Madeline was, I gotta say, pretty emotional, which annoys me as I wish the movie focused more on these characters, rather than wrapping up storylines that didn't need to be resolved in the first place. The score from Hans Zimmer starts out as some of the best symphonic work he's done in a while, with beautiful orchestrations during Bond's travels in Italy. Unfortunately, as the score progresses, Zimmer's score quickly becomes forgettable, turning into a series of generic bombastic sounds that don't service the character at all. While this final outing from Daniel Craig as James Bond is somewhat satisfying, what holds the movie back is its lack of focus in the script and direction. It means that what should be the emotional focus of the story in Bond and Madeline takes a backseat for a large part of the movie. When it comes to the acting, the standouts are Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas. Craig delivers the same level of acting prowess that we've seen in his previous appearances, along with throwing himself in the deep end in the movie set pieces. The rest of the cast are solid, with Lashana Lynch excelling in the action department. Her character though feels like it's pandering to the woke culture that we live in today, mainly with her frequent verbal jabs at Bond. Where No Time to Die delivers is in its direction. Cary Fukanaga, especially during the first act, allows us to experience the highs and lows of Bond's relationship with Madeline. The action is among the best in Daniel Craig's run of the character. Fukanaga frames the set pieces with wide shots and long takes, allowing us to be fully immersed in the excitement and tension involved. Overall, I really wanted Daniel Craig's final entry as Bond to be the best in his series of movies, but unfortunately the movie gets more wrong than right, as I'm going to give No Time to Die a 7 out of 10. So I'll now hand it over to you, as I want to find out your thoughts on No Time to Die, and do you think this is Daniel Craig's best movie in his 10 years Bond, as I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you're a big fan of movies like myself, then be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, along with the notification bell to keep up to date with my latest videos. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.